See our full videos on onespotmedia.com, click here. Thank you very much for watching.
Welcome to Schools Not Out, your daily classroom for CSEC and CAPE students. You can watch this lesson real-time on Television Jamaica's YouTube channel or One Spot Media. We also are live on Music 99 and GoJamaica.com. If you have questions on today's subject, you can send them into Television Jamaica's Facebook page or Instagram at Television Jamaica _. Today's lesson is on CAPE Physics, where we will be focusing on operational amplifiers. I am Paul Bender. The operational amplifier. I'm sure you might have opened circuits and devices, and you saw little square black things in it with all kinds of attachments to it. Well, those are called integrated circuits. But today we will look at a special type of integrated circuit called an operational amplifier. Okay, so let's start. Well, in today's lesson, the objectives are, at the end of this lesson, you should be able to explain what is an operational amplifier. And there are real and ideal operational amplifiers. You will be able to differentiate between them. All right. And they state what are clipping and gain when relating to op amps, distinguish between closed loop and open loop gain, and explain a function of an operational amplifier as a voltage comparator. All right, so then here we have some of the previous knowledge were things that you should know coming into this lesson. You should know Ohm's law, how to analyze 8 AC alternating current voltage traces, and symbols for circuit components. And some keywords I want us to focus on today is the operational amplifier, clipping, gain, and comparator. Before we get into the lesson, I had set up 2 demonstrations for you, but we ran into some technical difficulties, and so I will not be able to make the demonstrations today, but I will try to explain to you what it is that would be transpiring, that should have transpired in the demonstrations. All right, so let's get into the lesson. What is an operational amplifier? It's op amp, that's the name we use for short. Operational amplifier for short is fundamentally a voltage amplifying device. You use it to amplify voltages. You input a small voltage and you output a larger voltage. And you can think of your transformer as a voltage amplification device as well. All right? And it is designed to be used with external feedback components such as resistors and capacitors between its output and input terminals. And when we look at some op-amp circuits, we will see where these devices are used. And so why is it called an op-amp? Okay, because by virtue of the different feedback configurations, because you can make a set of different feedback configurations, the op-amp can perform a variety of operations, and that is what gives you rise to the word operational amplifier. Because of the various operations that this device can perform, we call it an operational amplifier. It is an amplifier by nature, and it can perform various operations, therefore operational amplifier. And some of the operations that it can perform, and we will look at these as a comparator, inverting and non-inverting amplifier, summing amplifier, and a voltage follower. These are some of there are a whole myriad of operations that the operational amplifier can perform, but these are just some of them. All right, so physically, an operational amplifier is an integrated circuit. When we talk about the ICs in our electronic devices, IC means integrated circuit. It's an integrated device which consists of two input terminals. We have two input terminals, one output terminal, what are called offset terminals, two of those, and one terminal which is just a dummy terminal, if you want to call it that way. All right, and these here are just two views of what an operational amplifier. These are the connections, these are the terminals, 8 of them, and it's just inside of an embedded device. So within an operational amplifier, all right, internally the operational amplifier has a circuit, a myriad of various electronic components, resistors, capacitors, transistors, and so on, which are embedded. They are embedded in a silicon substrate. Okay, so you, like for instance, here we have, on this thing, we have a resistor, and these are resistors and so on. But within the operational amplifier, all of these things are embedded in a silicon substrate, right? And on this we can identify on this device, we can, let me go back. We can identify, here are resistors. They have resistors here. Here and here are two resistors. And this device here, this is a transistor. These are transistors here. But because of how they are and they're embedded in this silicon substrate, they look different than they would look as a physical device. So here we have those. All right. Okay. It's not working properly at all. Now here is a diagrammatic representation of the connections to an operational amplifier. So we have 8 connections, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They are numbered anti-clockwise. All right. And so this here, these two, number 1 and number 5, are the offset, what are called offset, because what happens is the operational amplifier gives out a DC output under certain conditions, and sometimes you will have to, like zeroing, if you want to call it zero. You know, when you're zeroing an instrument, you would want to use these two terminals to zero the amplifier, so that when you have 0 input, you have 0 output. But normally an operational amplifier would give you an output even though when the input is 0, because of the internal electrics and so on. All right. And then you have 2 is inverting and non-inverting. These are the inputs to the operational amplifier, and we will look at these a little bit more. And then you have to power the op amp. You can't get power out if there is no source of power. All right. So we have to power the amplifier. So 4 and 7 are the power connections, and 6 is the output. Number 8 is just a dummy. Maybe that's just to help you to anchor the operational amplifier. And when we represent an operational amplifier in a circuit, we don't represent it that way, but we represent the operational amplifier. We represent the operational amplifier this way. All right. So we have terminal 2 inverting, terminal 3 non-inverting. This diamond represents, this is the output V out, and these are the power connections, 4 and 7. All right, 7 is positive, 4 is negative. And so this is how we represent an operational amplifier in a circuit. But when we do an operational amplifier in a circuit, generally these two are left out. This is understood that it is being powered, and the numbers are also left off, right? We don't put them in the circuit, because for purposes of, clarity, if you put too much things in a circuit, then it becomes confusing. So you leave it out, and we know that we have an input power. We know that we have the numbers and what the circuit elements are. All right, so let's move on. Now we're going to look at the difference between what is called an ideal operational amplifier and a real operational amplifier. In everything we have our idealisms, right? So for an ideal operation amplifier, the input impedance. Impedance is a resistance, right? For want of a word, it's different, but that can be explained. But the input resistance of an operation amplifier is, for an ideal, is infinite. So what we're saying is that we can put nothing into the operational amplifier and we get something out of it. That's ideal, right? Everybody would want to put nothing and get something, right? And so no current force flowing from the source supply into the amplifier's input. So that's an ideal operation amplifier. But a real op-amp, they have input leakage currents ranging from picoamps to milliamps, right? So current actually gets into the operational amplifier in the real op-amp. So that's one difference. And then the output impedance of an ideal operational amplifier is assumed to be 0. So that means if we have 0 output impedance, we can get as large a current as we can from the operational amplifier. And that's, remember, that is ideal. That's ideal. But real op-amps have impedances between 100 to 100 ohm to 20 kilo ohm range. They are in that range. All right. So the ideal op-amp, no output impedance. The real op-amp, they have some output impedance. And then we have, all right, at this point here, let me just go back a little bit, just go back. So. I'm having some issues here. All right, at this point, I had a demonstration, right? And I will wanted to show you about clipping, and we will look at gain as well, right? I want to show you at clipping. Now, this is the circuit that I have here. If you can. All right, this is the circuit that I have here, and that is what is being shown here. And this is the diagrammatic representation of the circuit. What is obtaining? We will put in input an alternating voltage into the input of the operational amplifier, and as a result of that, we will get an alternating output voltage. All right. So here is the circuit. Here is the circuit that we're going to use. All right. Okay. Now, what will happen is that on the screen you will see green is input. So we will have an input alternating voltage. And what we will have, because this was, we will have an output alternating voltage, right? So this is out and this is in, all right? Now, if you notice that the output is an amplified from the input, okay? Now, if we continue to increase, if we increase the input somewhat, right? If we increase the input, what will happen? The output will begin to increase as well. So the peak voltage will increase as the peak voltage of the input increases. So the peak voltage would increase. Now what will happen after a while, when this input reaches to a certain value and the peak voltage of this increases, it will turn to a square wave like this. This will square off like this, all right? It wouldn't continue, it will square off here, all right? And this value at which it squares off will be equal to the value of this input here. So like for instance, when this squares off, we will find that the value of the output here will be 9 volts because we are inputting 9 volts into the operational amplifier. And that is called clipping, right? So the output gets clipped at the top. We cannot output more than we input into the operational amplifier. If we have any device like that, then it's happy times for us, because we can put in very little and get how much out we want out of it, right? And energy conservation tells us that that's not possible, right? So as we go, we will get amplification, and no matter how much we increase the input, we can increase the input as much as we want. This value, it will not pass this value. This is the maximum value to which we can get any amplification. But it helps us if we start with very small voltages, we can increase it to very high voltages within the parameters of how much we input into the operational amplifier. And I wanted to show you that. But so this effect is called clipping. All right, that's the effect is called clipping. All right. And all right, so this is what you might have seen. You might have noted that below a certain value of the input, the output increased as the input increased. But after a certain of the value of the input, two things happened. The output stopped increasing even as the input increased, and the shape of the output trace changed to a square wave. And this phenomenon is called clipping. All right, we call that clipping. Okay, and so what this circuit that we used here, this is what is called a feedback circuit, because the output, some of the output is fed back into the input, and we will look a little bit more about that when we look at inverting amplifiers and so on. But that is fed back into the, and so when we go to, it says when an op-amp is in a feedback circuit, the gain is defined as the input divided by the output, right? Whatever the, sorry, I have it incorrect here. My apologies. I want to correct myself. It's out divided by in. That's the gain, right? And so gain A is equal V out divided by V in. Please disregard this here. This is incorrect. All right. This is what is correct. V out divided by V in. Okay. All right. Now let's go to a little quick quiz here. A little quick quiz. All right. Okay. So here is a trace that you would have seen on the screen. So the red represents the output and the blue represents the input, right? And so it says the illustration shows the V in blue, this is the input, and V out in red to an op-amp with a feedback circuit, right? So that same feedback circuit. The voltage sensitivity, that means that if you have a understanding of how to read, these are the divisions on the thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. So for each division, the height of the trace would be 5 volts, and for the red, it's 10 volts per division, all right? So it is asking, what is the closed loop gain of the op-amp, right? We want to find what is the closed loop gain. And so if we can click for the answer, all right? Okay, so at 5 volts per division, the height of the trace is 1 division, right? That's the height of the trace, 1 division. So it is the sensitivity, 5 volts per division by 1 division, and that would be V in is 5 volts. And then at 10 volts per division, we have the height of the trace is 1, 2.5 divisions, right? So it is 10 volts, the voltage sensitivity by the number of divisions, and that will be 25 volts, right? So the closed loop gain is V out, which is 25, divided by V in, which is 5. So the gain is 5. The gain doesn't have any units, right? So the gain of that feedback circuit is 5. All right? Okay. All right, now, open loop gain now. The open loop gain, and this is a when the amplifier doesn't have any feedback, when the op amp doesn't have any feedback. So if we wanted to look at an open loop circuit, we will have something like this. This is the op amp. Out, we have V in, this is a minus, and this is our plus. And we have V plus and V minus. All right, and these, of course, are connected to a zero. So this is V out, and that's how we would represent an open loop amplifier. All right, all right. So an open loop gain would be V out over delta V. Now delta V is the difference between this input and this input. They have a small difference between them. And so that is why we say delta V, right? And so delta V is the difference between inverting and non-inverting input, or whichever one is larger, right? And for an operational amplifier, the open loop gain is infinite. So we'll just have a quick quiz. An operational amplifier is powered by positive 15 and negative 15 volts. The amplifier has an open loop gain of 100,000. State the output of the amplifier when the voltage difference in the two inputs is 12 microvolts. All right. So let's see the answer here. All right. So here we have that. The output, we have this here, right? All right, let me see if I get a darker marker. All right. So we have that, we know that the output all right, one of these must work. Yes, must work. So we know that the open loop gain is equal to V out over change, the difference in the voltages. So that the output would be equal to the open loop gain times the change, the difference between the two inputs, right? So the difference between the two inputs is 12 microvolts, right? So that's the 12 microvolts, 12 by 10 to the negative 6 volts, and the gain is 100,000, which is 10 to the 5, all right? So 12 by 10 to the negative 6 by 10 to the 5 will give you 1.2 volts, all right? Okay, let me put these up. All right. And so for the second part now, we have the same thing, that the output, this time it is 2 millivolts, so, right? So it will be 2 millivolts by the gain, which is 100,000 or 10 to the 5, that will give you 200 volts. But we know that it can't pass 15 volts, because 200 volts is not possible, because we said that the limit to which the operational amplifier can give you any output is 15 volts, which is the input there. And so that here, that output would be 15 volts. All right? Okay, so no matter how much you get for this answer, we know that it's not possible for it to pass 15 volts, because that is how much you input into the op amp, right? So we'll go back. We look at the last thing, the voltage comparator. And the voltage comparator is a circuit which compares two voltages and switches the output to either high or low state depending on which voltage is higher. In a voltage comparator, one of the input voltages is taken as a reference voltage, and the voltage comparators can be configured in inverting or non-inverting mode. That's just some. So let's get into how the voltage comparator works. All right, so here is a voltage comparator circuit. Again, I was going to show you a demonstration, but this is a what the voltage comparator looks like. This is the circuit here. All right, this is the circuit. This is the op amp, LED, like dependent resistor and other resistors, right? But this is what the diagram looks like. Circuit on a circuit board, diagram, what a diagram looks like, right? And we will see how this works. Okay. So what the demonstration would have shown is this is the LED, this is the light dependent resistor. When I covered this resistor, the LED would come on. All right. When I take off my hands and there is light, the LED would come on as well. Will go off, right? So when it's dark, this comes on, and when it's light, that goes off. All right. So that is how that would have been showing. And that's what the demonstration. So here we are going to look on the function of the voltage comparator, right? That is not getting anything. All right, let me explain. Here, these are the currents that are coming from the positive and going down to the earth through the resistors, right? All right, so here we have these currents coming down here, all right? And since no current, little or no current, ideally no current is going to flow in here or here. That's why we have the two stops. So all the current is flowing down through these two here, all right? They're flowing straight down. And so since little or no current can flow, all right, from this diagram here, the current I would be equal to the V here across from here to here, which is 9 volts, would be equal to the potential difference across this plus the potential difference across that. And that is what that is saying here, right? Also, this here, V in this potential difference here is equal to IR. And when we make the substitutions, we will end up with this equation here. You can do it for yourself, and you will see you will end up with that equation. Now, what will happen is that when it is dark, so we have this equation here, all right? We have that V in is equal to 9R over RL plus R. All right, RL, this is the light dependent resistor. Okay, and we know that delta V would be equal to V ref minus V in. All right. Now what happens when you cover the light dependent resistor, and when this becomes dark, this resistance here increases. All right, this resistance here increases, which means that V in will decrease. All right. Now, when V in decreases, it means that this difference here would become greater. And when this difference here becomes greater, it means that because we know that V out is equal to A naught delta V. When delta V becomes greater, then this V out becomes large enough now to drive the LED. All right? So that's how the voltage comparator works. Okay? So what we have seen is the use of the operational amplifier as a voltage comparator, and also as in various circuit elements. All right. If you have any questions on what we've done so far, you can send them into our various platforms, and I will see if I can answer them in the final segment. When we come back, we answer your questions and wrap up. Stay with us. We'll be back with more op-amps. All right. Okay. I have
Hi there, I'm Simon Preston from TVJ. Thank you very much for watching our YouTube channel. To see our latest videos and also to see live events, click here. To see our full videos on onespotmedia.com, click here. Thank you very much for watching.
COVID-19 tip. Protect yourself and others from getting sick by washing your hands after coughing or sneezing, when caring for the sick, before, during, and after you prepare food, before eating, after toilet use, when hands are visibly dirty, and after handling animals or animal waste.
Reduce your risk of viral illnesses like the flu and coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing with a tissue and dispose of it. Avoid close contact with anyone with a cold or flu-like symptoms. If you become ill, please visit your doctor or the nearest health center and share your travel history. The flu and coronavirus can kill. Let's protect each other. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
The Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, along with TVJ, present Schools Not Out, CSEC and CAPE lessons live Mondays to Fridays from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, with weekly Schools Not Out tutorial sessions on Saturdays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Schools Not Out, live CSEC and CAPE lessons here on TVJ.
COVID-19 tip. Protect yourself and others from getting sick by washing your hands after coughing or sneezing, when caring for the sick, before, during, and after you prepare food, before eating, after toilet use, when hands are visibly dirty, and after handling animals or animal waste.
Get moving! Home workout series with Jamaica Moves.
Jamaica move, mobilize, exercise. Jamaica move, Jamaica move, Jamaica move, mobilize, exercise. Come on, take a selfie. Breathe.
Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8:35 a.m.
Hi! We haven't left you out. It's Get Moving Kids.
Wall Street above. We're moving.
Home workout series with Jamaica Moves. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays.
Hi there, I'm Simon Preston from TVJ. Thank you very much for watching our YouTube channel. To see our latest videos and also to see live events, click here. To see our full videos on onespotmedia.com, click here. Thank you very much for watching.
COVID-19 tip. Protect yourself and others from getting sick by washing your hands after coughing or sneezing, when caring for the sick, before, during, and after you prepare food, before eating, after toilet use, when hands are visibly dirty, and after handling animals or animal waste.
Welcome back to Schools Not Out, your daily classroom for CSEC and CAPE subject. Today we have been discussing CAPE physics and the topic of operational amplifiers. So far we haven't received any questions, but as usual I have a question, and this is a challenge question as usual, all right, where I take you out of the box and ask you to use some of what it is that you would have learned from the lesson. So here is a graph. It shows how the output of an op-amp varies with a direct current input. All right. So remember we looked at how the output varies with an alternating input. All right. We had said if we have an alternating input, this is the input, and then we said our output, well, it can look like square, 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 and so on. All right, we said that is what happens. All right, so this is our output and our input, and we said this is clipping. Now what I want you to look at, this is for a direct voltage input, okay, and we see that it goes here in the positive, it goes up to a value, and then it doesn't go beyond that, irrespective of how high the input voltage goes. After it reaches a certain value, the input voltage increases, but the output voltage stays at 10. And then the same thing in the negative. All right, and so we see, though we can see a similarity between what is happening here and what is happening here. This is an alternating input, direct input. All right, and so it is asking you, it says, what is the magnitude of the input from the power source? All right, and remember we said that it will level off at the magnitude of the power source as it did here. All right, and we see it levels off at 10 volts, right? So the input from the power source would be 10 volts. Okay, and it said, what does the gradient of the graph represent? All right, now we have a situation here on the graph. We have an input, let's call the input voltage V in, and we'll call the output voltage V out, right? So we have that, we have V in, that's the input voltage, and what we have, we know that V out is equal to the gain times V in, all right? We know that it's equal to the gain times V in. So if we plot a graph of V out against V in, we will get a straight line passing through the origin, and the gradient of that graph will be equal to the gain. All right? And so it is asking, what does the gradient of the graph represent? So the gradient of the graph represents the gain of the operational amplifier, and we can find that gain by finding a value for the gradient of the graph. All right? And so here we have, from the gradient, we have we can use 10 and 0. All right? So we have, so the gradient would be equal to 10 minus 0 over, and this is 1, 2, this is 2.5, 10, and that would be 2.5 minus 0. That would be 10 over 2.5, and that would be equal to 4. So it has a gain of 4. Okay? This is this situation when we use the alternating inputs, we say we have the phenomena, we call it clipping. When we use direct inputs, we use the term saturation. All right, so we say we meet saturation. So we have negative saturation up here, and we have positive saturation. When we looked at the alternating input, we saw that the top of the alternating, the sinusoidal curve was cut off, so we call that clipping. Here, with the direct inputs, we call it saturation. Same phenomenon, but we just have it will look different because of the two different types of inputs. All right. Then we have a second question. All right. So here we're going to use a little voltage comparator. Voltage comparator in the illustration is used in an industrial process to switch off a boiler just as the temperature of a liquid reaches 6 to 5 degrees Celsius. The boiler switch is activated when the comparator output reaches 9 volts. So when the comparator reaches 9 volts, this boiler will switch off, right? And we have what you call a thermistor you would put in the boiler, and the resistance of the thermistor varies with the temperature. All right, so when the output reaches 9 volts, when this output here reaches 9 volts, right, and the open loop gain of the op amp is 10,000, right? So this here is basically an open loop. Look at the operational amplifier. All right, and we see that the reference voltage here would be 0, all right, because it is connected to the earth. and it is not connected to the positive power. So this point, at this point, the potential is the same as the earth potential. So and the potential of the earth is 0, so the input to the inverting is 0. And we can find out what V in is. All right. So let's look here again. Remember, as in the first case, when the current is coming, the current will flow and none will flow into the input here. So all the current will flow across here, right? And so we can use the same reference. We can say that if the current through both of these is I, we can say that I times the 10 kilo ohms, so it's 10I plus I times RT would be equal to 9 volts, right? Okay. All right. Now, here we also know that V in is equal to I times RT. All right? Okay. And so that I would be equal to V in over RT. And so we can make the substitution. All right? So if we substitute, we will have that, first of all, that this here will give that I times 10 plus RT would be equal to 9. All right? And if we substitute for I, so V in over RT plus 10 plus RT would be equal to 9. All right? And if we rearrange this equation, all right, we will have that V in is equal to 9 RT over 10 plus RT. So we have that's our situation. So it says the open loop gain of the operational amplifier is 10,000, and it says when the comparator output reaches 9 volts, right? So when this here becomes 9 volts, when this becomes 9 volts, then the thing switches on. But when this becomes 9 volts, we can find a value for V in, all right? Because V in is equal to, let's start here. We know that V out is equal to A naught times V in, all right? And so when this is 9 volts, this is 10,000 times V in. So V in is equal to 9 over 10,000. And let's call that 9 by 10 to the negative 5 volts. So when V in is 9 by 10 to the negative 5 volts, all right, 9 by 10 to the negative 4 volts, then we know that the thing will switch off, all right? So we can substitute this now into this equation and find a value for RT. I'll erase this side here. All right, so we will substitute. So V in, we said, is 9 by 10 to the negative 4 is 1, 2, 3, 9. That V in would be equal to 9 RT over 10 plus RT. Okay? So we can cross multiply. We will have 0.1239 times 10 plus RT is equal 9 RT. If we that will give you this by 9 is 0.009 plus 0.009 RT 0009 is equal 9 RT, and so we will have that 0.009 one more 0. 0.09, sorry, is equal 9RT minus 0.0009 RT. And then when we subtract, we can, okay, we will get that RT is equal 0.009 over 9 minus 0.0009. And that will be the value of RT. Okay? So here we have used two things. All right? We have used the gain as well as the potential divider here in order to determine at what resistance they. So that's all today for our topic in Cape Physics, operational amplifiers. And we hope you grasp most of the points we discussed, and you can catch a repeat of today's lessons on JNN today at 4 p.m. in the Schools Not Out highlights, on Saturday between 1 and 4 p.m. right here on TVJ. It also will be on video on demand on One Spot Media. Until next time, I'm Paul Bender. CSEC EDPM is up next. Stay tuned.
Hi there, I'm Simon Preston from TVJ. Thank you very much for watching our YouTube channel. To see our latest videos and also to see live events, click here. To see our full videos on onespotmedia.com, click here. Thank you very much for watching. Hi there, I'm Simon Preston from TVJ. Thank you very much for watching our YouTube channel. To see our latest videos and also to see live events, click here. To see our full videos on